we're back, Angela. So you've got the skirt all buttoned up.
Mm-hmm.
How are you liking it?
I love it. I like the shape of it, and you can tell it's flat in the front and really look at that proof in the back.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you really did a nice job with centering the front, which is kind of important with a pattern like this. So I think that looks really, really good. So next we're going to start the jacket. So are you scared because this is what we're going to do next?
Yeah, this scared me a lot. I already cut this. I did it really slowly, but I think now I've got the hang of it.
You've cut the jacket, and we did a sample of the lining. But now we're going to show them. We're going to show them how you did this.
Yeah, if you're more proficient with the blade, then you can do it the way that Leo does it, with directly on the paper. But
I like the way you thought about opening this up and then marking it.
yeah, this is the way I tend to do any darts. So if there's a dart where, not that we have to cut it, but if we have to sew it, and you have little dots, I will go ahead and poke a hole through the paper and then mark it with a pen on each one, so I know where I need to sew to my points.
And really, for 1860s costumes, sometimes you need some really severe darts to get the shape.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just part of what they did. I mean, these are very gentle darts.
So since this is a very dark fabric, and I'm going to use a Clover white pen, and I'm just going to go over it a couple times, and then it's going to leave a mark, a faint mark.
And by the way, this costume is a variation on the Tron Blue and all of that. However, you're seeing don't follow anything that's on that pattern piece, because we've already made changes on it. And when you get your pattern, it'll have all this new stuff. Okay, now.
So after you mark it and it shows very faint, now it's going to darken it up a little bit. It's still going to be very faint, and then you're going to go.
We're cutting it anyway,
Yeah,
so
so you're
it's going to go away. So you're using a little rotary.
Mm-hmm. And you're just going to follow.
And by the way, people that do the rotaries cutters, they do make replacement blades for these. A lot of people don't know that. So you're not wasting your... We go through a lot of these rotary cutters because when you're cutting yardage, it just gets them dull really quick. So that was easy.
Yeah, and you can see all the way through. If you find that you get a little few fabrics that are stuck, you can just go in there with the embroidery.
So you've never done this technique before?
No, I have not. So,
so we taught you something.
Yeah.
It's nice when our advanced sewers give them a little tidbit. So I think we've got all our pieces that they will come to you cut out. So while Angela was doing other things, I did some basting, and the piping should be basted on at 1/4 of an inch, and there's a few places that I am a little bit over 1/4 of an inch, but I think it will be okay. We've got a little roomy jacket. So are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to start putting this together. Do you want me to tell you where I think you should start?
Go ahead. This is
back.
Okay.
Start in the center back.
So this is the center back.
So you've got 2 pieces.
Right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over and find your center back. And I would recommend pinning and then maybe basting closer to the edge not all the way to the edge, but baste a little bit before you start sewing. So even if you're going to use a sewing machine to go around here, I would still baste it to make sure that it's not moving at all.
Right.
And then that way you're not going to cry about it when
Right.
you don't get where you
But
need.
Rosie, our machine, she, we have our big monsters, or big monster, not monsters. She is very good at making piping, or putting a, basically we're going to be using a zipper foot, even though the zipper didn't exist when this was made, and we'll use the zipper foot. No, but I think that it's worth it to just do some down and dirty basting, and then it will.
Yeah, I totally recommend basting no matter what. Basting is just going to make it a little bit.
Yeah, and we can just easily pull
yeah.
the threads out afterwards. And sometimes when you baste a lot, it kind of wears the fabric out the way it looks, but none of this is ever going to be seen.
Right. It's closer to the edge where it doesn't matter. So just make really big basting stitches.
Big ones. Don't waste your time on the Easters. This is just to hold it in place. And the pins can create a kind of a pucker, or pins move, so this is a good technique. So we're going to get this all basted, and you're just going right up to the piping roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not
I'm
quite.
actually, no, I'm going in between.
In between, okay.
Yeah.
So you'll leave the space for the machine to get in there.
Because I don't want to get this thread caught in the machine either. I just want to just secure it just enough.
All right, so we'll get all this basted up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to sew like crazy. So we're back, Angela. You had a nice lunch.
Yep.
Now we got to pay for our lunch. So you've got everything basted. It looks a little bit like little Edward Scissorhands, because we just kind of did a very roughed-in basting, because it's all going to be taken out. So now, we've got our zipper foot in our machine, Rosie, and shall we let it rip and do our first seam? We'll do our first seam, and we will check. In order to do this costume, you could do it by hand, but if you do it by machine, you need a zipper foot. And I would imagine a zipper foot was originally called a piping foot before the advent of zippers. So tell us what you're doing.
So I'm going right against the edge, and
You can feel it, can't
yeah, you can. It's going to give you resistance as you're.
Yeah, it won't let you go over. All right, shall we check it out and see if we pass the test?
And the back and the front looks good. And there we go. Well, we have a little bit here, but we can go over it again.
Do we have a little pucker or a little just not enough?
No,
closeness?
just not enough closest. But the rest of it is fine.
So the rest of it looks really good.
Yeah.
And then any of the threads that show on the piping will remove. So let's fix that, and then
And that's the good thing, is because,
you got
have lining.
you got a little away from the.
yeah.
And we don't even have to tear it out, which is nice.
Just go over it again.
And which piece is this that you're doing?
I'm doing this center back.
Center back. Oh yeah. So we really need to have that
Yeah.
curvature at the waistline. course, this is the first seam you've done, so we
Oh,
can't.
I think
Did we lose some thread?
we did, but did it go through? Oh, we lost thread. Yeah, we did.
Well, we will rethread it.
Yeah, we did.
But it's looking good. So
Yeah.
basically, that's all you do. You just use your zipper foot. You go along. We're doing it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you just zip through it. So we've got a lot of sewing to do. We will come back and show you how it turned out. So we're back, and Angela, you had a good night's sleep. How are you feeling?
Feeling good.
Are you ready for day 3?
I'm ready for day 3.
Okay, so here we are, and Angela has fought with Rosie. There she is, Rosie. But now they've become friends.
Yes, we have. we have an understanding now.
So you've got all the piping in, and it's looking really good. A couple of things that we have discovered as we've done this. When you're putting the piping in, the seam allowance from the piping to the edge of the fabric of the piping is 1/4 inch.
Yep.
And then when it goes actually in to the seam, it's 1/8 inch.
It's 1/8 inch.
Okay, so that is very important. It'll be in your pattern. If we've previously said something different, this is what it is. Now, we've gone ahead and done the lining, which is the same concept of what we just did, but without the piping.
And so you could see this is 1/4 inch.
So that's 1/4 inch, and if we lay it on top of each other, it matches up perfectly. Because the piping takes up room.
Yep.
When it's in the seam. So that's all done and that's ready. And then I think we should point out that the darts, can we show them the darts?
Yeah.
Both of the darts, the seam allowance for the dart is 1/8 inch. So that is 1/8 inch. So we'll press out the lining just to get that done. We'll do the pressing to the jacket, and then we're going to go on to
The piping on the armhole.
piping on the armholes, which is, it's one of the fiddly bits of the piece. But once it's in, it makes everything pretty easy from there. So we will be back with that shortly. So Angela, we've got a challenge to do the armhole. So let's go in there. Let's get in there.
Okay, so I cut a little bit off for both armholes.
Did a little trim.
I cut out a little bit extra just so that I can trim it off after I have basted it into place. Now you can see this is about 1/4 inch space here. And we are not going to do a full 1/4 inch. We're going to do 1/8 inch. So you're going to see that there's going to be overhang.
Because we're going to trim that all
Because we're
off.
going to trim it off. And this is like the same issue we have with putting in the piping here.
Piping's just an issue.
Yeah, it is. So I'm going to start here under the arm.
Yeah, because we want it to be lined up
Yeah.
with the, and that's a good,
And I'm just going to baste it into place so then I can sew it later. And I'm going to sew it by hand. I'm not going to use the machine because it's so tiny, you're not going to be able to do it.
and really no 19th century garments, just about of any
Yeah.
kind, are machine sewn in the armholes. Sorry, people, they're just not. It's the one area that even if you did gorgeous machine work, you just really have to do this by hand.
It was never done. Tailors and seamstresses would all have done it by hand. And they would have used a back stitch because that's the strongest stitch and that's the most, where you're gonna put onto your, and stress on your garment.
And it's not easy to get into particularly when you're setting in a sleeve, which is what we're doing. you just can't set in a sleeve with a sewing machine.
You can
I mean,
add.
you can. It's just it's way more work.
Yes, you'd have to.
One of our first, she's gone now. First extra sewers that we worked with, had working for us was Butterfly Barbara, and Butterfly Barbara just adored doing sleeves. You know, that was just great because it was like, oh, it's not my favorite thing to do. She loved to do sleeves.
No, I really love Deborah Jenkins' technique where she leaves the side done and then you just kind of go all the way from the bottom up to the sleeve.
I'm gonna have to watch that again because you know
Yeah.
I forgot. I forgot those.
It makes it so much easier, and you don't get frustrated trying to fit your fingers through these little tiny
Oh
armholes.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but for something like this, there's no way. You have to do it this way.
Yeah. And I do believe that this is really one of the most elegant treatments for a sleeve is to do a piped sleeve.
So when you get to here, you want to match up where you're ending. That will just make it way neater.
Yeah. Kind of do a little crossover.
Yep.
We probably should trim this and then overcast it too, don't you think?
Yes, that's definitely what we're going to do. We're going to trim it afterwards because there's a lot
There's a lot
of
of
overhang.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it'll make it easier to see.
But people don't be afraid of this. It's a lot easier than you.
Plus, if you're off by a little bit, it's okay because, again, it's under the arm. You're not going to see
Exactly.
it.
Well, you are if you pull the arm up
Right.
and look under her arm.
But, but don't be afraid. It's okay.
You're doing a little back stitch
A
there.
little back stitch here to secure it, because, even though we're basting it, we're going to go over again with the back stitch.
Right.
And you want it as secure as possible. Again, a little one here. And you don't want it to come undone while you're trying to sew. Here's a little.
You know, we've looked for a lot of different types of cording to use for piping, and this really is this is really the best because it's very fluid but firm. Have you found that working with it?
Yeah,
And I just found it of all places at the hardware store up the street, and the rolls I got of it looked like they'd been there for 30 years. Really, I mean, honestly, it's like no one had ever bought it, and then along comes me. It's like, oh, that's exactly what I need.
it keeps its shape a lot better than the cotton one.
Yeah, the cotton ones will kind of moosh down.
And they'll unravel at some points and flare out. But once you cut it, look, it's just,
Yeah,
here's the end
it's
of it.
really it's a great little find.
Okay, so then we can trim. There we
Nice.
go.
Okay. So should we see how it looks on the other? Putting the inners in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's looking good. I mean, for
Yeah.
just basting it, I think that's great.
And then when you sew it down, of course, it's going to come
gonna-
down tight.
And then when we get, it's going to change when
Mm-hmm.
we insert the sleeve, and then we're going to, do a back stitch on the sleeve, and then we're going to overcast it. And it's going to be very, very,
Very secure.
Very secure. So we'll go ahead and get the other one in, and then we're going to go and do the next step. So we've got our armhole piping in. So you've gone in and we basted it first, and
Then we did a back stitch all around. so that when we put in the armhole, it's going to be really tight.
Looks really good.
So when you get to this, you just kind of want to overlap
Sure.
and then sew.
And
so
then
that-
once the next stage, that'll look beautiful.
So this is the second one. So you can start by doing the back stitch. And remember to make sure that all these little pieces here are under your armhole. And you want to, when you're doing your back stitch, that's very important to go over it several times to make sure it's
Just make
secure.
sure you pull everything together.
Yeah.
Because the jacket, the black of the jacket and the cotton is going to, that's what we're going to attach the sleeves to ultimately. So it needs to be strong. It needs to be like plywood, you know, layer upon layer.
Oh yeah. And you're going to do several of these back stitches. So not just this, it's going to be the armhole too. You don't want any of these layers to get out of place.
And basically a back stitch is a running stitch that you go back over it, correct? And then it just reinforces the strength.
It's the same, I'm taking the same length that I did on the skirt. Back a 16th, forward a 16th. Back a 16th, forward a 16th. So then,
So this is going to be a strong armhole.
and then if you pull it tight, which you should, on these back stitches, especially on the armhole, because if you do it on a regular seam, it'll pucker, but if you do it on the armhole here, it's going to tighten up the piping really well. And then it'll make your seam super small.
Can you show, just turn it so that they can see the inside, where they can see the stitches on
The
yeah,
back.
so there you can see it. Just they're overlap basically. If you hear a little background noises, the bulldogs have just come to work. They just went to the enchanted forest for their morning exercise. Well, we'll get this done, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna leave the armholes and go on to another thing, just to shake it up a little bit. Okay, we're back and we are moving on. So we're gonna set the sleeve concept aside and we're gonna go on to do what next? What would you like to do next?
We're gonna do the
Ann?
collar.
We're gonna do the collar, which I think is one of the most fiddly bits of this project. And just so you know that when we did the prototype, this is basically how it's going to look. This is the second prototype because the collar was a little bit wonky and it really needs to match up as close as possible. So this is the first one that we did. And if it doesn't work, we just take it out. But it was good practice. But you don't get to practice.
No, I've got to do it. I've got to do it right on the first time.
Okay, so let's start with what we've got to do.
Okay, so we have this, and we're gonna have to trim it.
We have
about
to
an-
trim this quite a bit.
Yeah, what about an 1/8?
Yes, we've got to trim it way down because we don't want that bulk in the
Collar.
collar because it's a small space.
So then it's gonna be like this. You're going to sandwich it. It'll be this, your piping, your tarlatan, and then your bottom piece. And you're going to have to baste it because it is such a fine,
Tight.
seam allowance.
And you not only do you have to baste it, you've got to baste each piece separately.
Yes.
Because it'll slide around and but it's a small space, so it's not a big deal to do.
So I'm trimming it about half. Again, it's an 1/8. So you don't have a lot of wiggle room.
No. And I should point out that all of these pieces are cut out on the bias. And really the only way to get this type of collar is to do it on the bias. So the pieces are all cut on the bias, everything except for the tarlatan, because I haven't figured out there is no bias on a tarlatan.
No, there isn't. So we're going to do this first.
There's no point of pinning this because
No, you have to baste it. Again, everything has to be basted. It will make your life so much easier to baste
piping, a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. Seams. Especially when you have to match up.
Right.
See, even I have a little overhang even going, so, because you have to get really close. And you'll get it caught because you're so close. And be careful, you may want to like stab into it a little bit to keep it in place, so that way this doesn't move too much. You want to anchor it a little bit sometime.
And the good news is that if Rosie acts up today, there's some keepers here that can help us out. It's like she's acting up.
We have stunt sewers.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go around.
Well, they're working on the second version of this in another color weave. While we're down here working on this. But Angela's been great because she's helped with, and any time you do a new pattern, new kit, you got to iron out the kinks, and so she's helped with a few little changes that have to be made.
And you don't have to do small little bias, or small little basting stitches, but again, every now and then.
I mean, these stitches we won't be able to get out. I won't be able to take them, but it's not going to matter because we're going to turn it inside out.
That's why when you're doing this and getting into the piping, do it at the very bottom and try to make it small. I'm gonna tie this one off and then keep continuing. And then
all right, so then we're going to, that's basically it, and then we're going to
do the same thing.
Yeah, we're going to put the tarlatan is behind the silk, and then we're going to put the cotton lining on top of the silk. No, wait a minute, how's that? I have to stop and think about that for a second. Now the tarlatan should go on top of the silk, and then
this way.
Wait a minute, the lining should go on top of the tarlatan, and then I could do it better just by doing it. Okay, so we put this here, then we put this.
Are we gonna flip it? And then
we put this next, and then we
flip it, and then
right. No, we put the lining there, and then the tarlatan goes on top of the lining.
Okay.
Yes, because then when we flip it open, you'll have silk on one side and lining on the other, and the tarlatan will be in the middle.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope I did that. Yes, I did that. I did one in advance. So
Let's show.
basically here, I'll show you. So there it is.
The silk.
Silk. No, that's the lining.
The lining. No, this is the silk.
Oh, no, yeah, that's the silk. And if you open it up from silk, you'll get to lining, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it.
And here's the lining and then the tarlatan.
Yeah.
And then we'll sew it around and then flip.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's it. So it is silk
Silk.
facing the lining, lining on top of the tarlatan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to let Angela do her sewing up on this, and we'll come back and we will do we'll sew all this together for real. We're back, and Angela has basted the collar. You know, you had to go around 3 times.
Yep. Silk, then the cotton, and the tarlatan.
But you just did a little something that I think is important to show, because this is such a tight seam that we have to sew. So you're going in and you're creating a channel. And they could do this with one of those, or excuse me, the end of a scissors,
Yep.
or a chopstick, whatever they use to just kind of. It's almost like making leather work. We're just trying to smash that fabric down right at the.
This is just the end of a clover boning knife.
So we've got to get this prepared for sewing, and we're almost at that point of doing that, and then we will change the foot of the machine, and we will be back to give it a go. So we've got the collars all basted, and we are going in and we're going to sew this. And we were really lucky that the maintenance crew came down and fixed the zipper foot, so we're good to go. And as I said, this I think is one of the fiddliest bits of this whole costume. Don't you agree?
Yeah, so go slow. You don't want to.
And you'll have enough fabric if you mess up one of the collars, you can recreate it. But you can't do it 4 times. You can do it 3 times. And they could sew this by hand, couldn't they?
They could. If they find it a little too hard to do it on their machine, they could definitely sew this by hand. By very tiny back stitches, very strong back stitches, they could do it.
Of course, that being said, you do have to have a zipper foot to even attempt this. So if you don't have that, you can forget about it.
Okay. I think we're good.
We're good. So we have already done one. So should we show them how it should look?
Yeah. This is our finished one. Here's the cotton part, and here is our silk.
And we already closed it up, so
Here.
we're ready to insert the collar. All right, we will be back. So we are back, and the collar pieces look really nice. They're very even in shape, which is kind of, it's not easy, is it? And
No, and so when you're cutting these out, make sure that there's a right side and a wrong side. So if this is one side and it has, the information on it, like cut 1, then I would go and flip that over and then do it the opposite side, because then you will have matching sides.
right.
Just as a reminder.
Yeah. But you'll have enough if you make a mistake. You'll have
Yeah.
enough material for this part.
But we have matching collars.
We've matched them up.
And now we're going to attach it to the coat. So what we want to do is the middle seam of the piping is our center line and our starting point.
That's the center back.
Yeah, this is our starting point. So you want to make sure that this slightly overlaps a little bit, but you want enough room where this will also overlap.
And they're just touching.
They're just barely touching. And then you're going to pin it because you're going to base this, and you want a free hand to help you baste. But it's not going to go all the way to the end because we're going to be folding this later.
Right.
So we'll pin this on, and then we'll baste along the edges because later we're going to then
We got to do some more piping.
on the edge.
The whole edge,
Yep.
the whole thing.
It'll be like that. So it'll be 1/8 of an inch of a seam allowance, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And then after that's done, then it'll flip over and it'll look beautiful. Yeah. And then we can.
And of course, when we pipe it, we're not going to start the piping there. We'll start it somewhere along here so that the neckline is going to have no seaming whatsoever. It'll look like this. So it'll have no seaming.
So I'm gonna start doing.
So we're just doing a basic little baste, and then we're gonna stop with the collar. Because basically the collar is gonna be pretty much done until we pipe the whole thing. But in the meantime, after this, we're gonna do something new and exciting. Okay, well, we're giving piping a break for just a second. So, poor Angela. So now you have this mystery piece to do.
Yep. Okay, so this is for the other arm
The sleeve.
that goes to the front. And so you're gonna do the same thing, but for the opposite arm. So you're gonna fold it, and you're gonna pleat it as well. So it does look like, okay, I've got all this extra bit at the bottom. You're gonna be pleating this. So
And we need that
Yeah.
that extra because that creates the drama of the pagoda.
yes, because it's gonna open up. Like,
Yeah, well,
you need that.
yes, we need that, and we need the swag, shall we say? We need that swag. So they're not. It's not even in the
No.
sense.
It needs
It
that
needs
oomph.
That oomph. That's right.
Okay, so you're gonna measure 2 inches
From the inner
from
sleeve.
the inner sleeve,
That's your starting point.
and you're going to.
And the tricky part of this is we have to pleat it and pleat it to match, but then the pieces have to come apart.
Yeah. So you're gonna pleat it, and then you want to make sure you're lining up too. So put pin in. And you're gonna have 1 inch. So.
So at
there's
the
your
bottom, we have 1 inch of smooth space. And I'm sorry, this is in black, so it makes it hard to see.
So 1 inch. Yeah. Kind of straighten it out a little bit.
And there's no right way or wrong way. If they wanted to gather this, just do a little gather, they could do that. It would be okay, but it's not going to be as dramatic as the pleat.
No.
Pleat will really.
And so I'm inserting another little pleat in between.
You could do 2 pleats, you can do 3 pleats, whatever you think looks good.
And I'm gonna pin it. Keep it in place. You can pin however you want so that keep your pleats in place. But you want to make sure you've got something like that. So we want to adjust.
You just have to keep working it. And we're going to have to do the same concept with the lining too.
Mm-hmm. So, 2 inches.
And I think the main thing is to keep your measurements of the smooth from the armhole and the smooth from the cuff. Keep that very accurate. So 2 and 1. And if you're in the metric system, then you'll have to look that up, what it needs to be. You know, Angela, you weren't even born yet, but when I was in school, they threatened us with the metric system. You're going to have to learn this. Well, we never caught on.
Okay, there we go.
All right, so that's looking really good. So that's what we have to do. So now we have to kind of get it apart and baste it, those pleats in place.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to undo what we just did, and then we'll baste it. So we're going to do that, and we'll be back and show you what we've done.
Okay.
So we're back. We have the arm, the pagoda sleeves all basted, the pleats, and you can see why we need to have in this particular pattern piece one side longer than the other, because it creates this dramatic drapery, where if it was all even, it would be back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those little Victorian tricks. So the next thing we're going to do is we have to pipe this. So we are going to pipe it. You want to tell them where we're going to pipe it? Are you sure you want me to tell you how?
Teach us how.
Okay. So we're gonna pipe from this whole edge up this side and to right there.
Because we're then gonna sew it together.
Right, when we fold it over.
And we don't need one here.
We don't need it because we'd have a double pipe then. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to baste this all down, and then when we will do that, and we will come back and show you what we've done, and then we will do the next step on the sleeve. So we're back. We have got the sleeves all draped. We have got them basted. They are ready to assemble. But while I'm showing you this, Angela's busy basting on the lining onto the sleeve, which is what we're going to do. And then that way we really only have to do one run around the piping, because otherwise if we did it in 2 steps, we'd have to do it twice. So we're going to do that, and then we'll show you the next step after this. But Angela, do you want to show them what you're doing?
I'm almost done with the basting.
So you're basting the lining, and then we're going to flip the lining inside out, and then the next step is, we hope it'll work. We're going to insert the sleeve into the armhole.
So you can see.
Yeah, but we'll come back and we'll show you. We'll show you the sewing of the piping here.
Okay.
So we'll get back. I will let Angela do this, because she's a much better baster than I am. Her basting's beautiful. Mine's a little sloppy. Okay, so Angela has been very diligent, and she's gotten the sleeves all basted, and now it's the moment of truth. We're going to
Yeah.
sew these puppies up. Let's do this.
So what I did was
Oh,
I
okay.
pinned here and I pinned here because this is open, and I didn't want to baste that because it's not part of the piping.
Right.
So when I'm going to sew this, I'm going to sew this all around with the piping first, and then later I'm going to change my foot out for
Right.
regular.
Yeah, I didn't
presser
think of
foot.
that.
Yeah,
did I?
and then I have to sew this part from here to here closed. And then we will flip the sleeves.
And pray.
Yes, cross our fingers.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
And it's such a nice day because Rosie got adjustments and I saw her opened up like I've never seen her open before.
We got to know her personally.
That's right.
Intimately.
Isn't she? It's just working so much better.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going with the foot right up to the cord.
Yep. I'm just guiding it. Out beautifully.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really good.
Okay, and then we'll do the next one. Oh, did it get caught?
You know, we have 3 bulldogs here while we're doing this class, and they decided that the only way that they'll go under the table is if they have to go through all the power cords, which is always just
I
fun.
think I got some. We'll have to redo that.
Uh-oh.
That's okay, because I've got a good seam ripper. I just have to find
Do you think it went into the cord, or?
No, I think what it did was it caught some excess fabric and I didn't pull
Oh,
on
okay,
it.
all right, so we'll fix that.
Yeah.
And we've got our trusty little,
Seam ripper. This is a great one.
I just love your seam ripper. We're gonna carry those because I love it.
You don't have to struggle because
Well,
it's
and
really
the
tight.
nice thing is that your ripper is that I feel that what I use actually just kind of messes stuff up because they're so, I mean, they're really only good for the first, I don't know, it's a short amount of time that you use them.
Yeah, and then they start to get dull, and then they just
Then you're just
pull
pulling,
the fabric.
right.
Yeah. That's it. And then I can go in the back. And that's it.
Yeah, that was easy.
Otherwise, you sit there and you struggle.
Yeah. The struggle is real.
Yes. There's this one. And I'll just go over it again. Yeah, so when you're doing this, try to hold taut here. There. There we go. So much better.
So we'll change our foot and we'll be back, and I guess then we'll change our foot, and then we have the reveal. Okay, we're back, Angela. You've gotten everything under control, so now what are we going to do next?
Now we're going to close up this open side where we didn't have piping before. We're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance down to the end, so from this top here to here, and then after that we're going to flip it open
And we're going to hope it looks beautiful.
and cross our fingers.
Okay, let's do this. Rosie sounds so much better today.
She does.
She was just, yesterday, she was a monster.
Ooh.
Well,
She does not like the pleats. No,
it may be, is it the pins or the pleats?
it's the pleat.
No, we may be too tight now with the bargain.
Yeah, so I'll have to adjust.
It may be too tight.
I think I'll go from the other side.
Yeah, try that. We'll try it, and if not, we'll have the doctor come down and fix it again.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be Leo.
That's,
Come on down, Leo. You know, I do not know how to fix this machine, even though I've had it all this time. There you go.
yeah.
See, she doesn't like the other way. I'll tell you, Angela, which way to go. She's not going to tell you.
She did not like that. Okay. We'll do that. Where was it? This way.
Well, you'll find out if you did it wrong.
Yeah, she'll tell me.
But
Always
you
listen.
you did sweep the cobwebs out of her, so that.
I did, so she should be nicer. But she is. She's cooperating. She just didn't like that.
I mean, the viewers can see that the case is really scarred, and that's not from abuse. That's just from thousands of garments coming through there.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to flip it and see how it came out. I'm waiting with bated breath.
I'm gonna cross my fingers. Pull out that. Some of our basting stitches.
Yeah, I didn't get all of them. So when this project's done, you've done 10 yards of piping. So I think had you done piping before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you're
Just not 10 yards.
Yeah. But had you ever used it in inserting it in seams as a decorative?
I've done it. I think we did that baby charity one, so that had some piping, not nearly as much as this.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, every seam in this
one,
ensemble
yeah.
has piping in it. So it's. I mean, it's a late 1860s, 1870s, decorative application.
I'm glad that we had this basting stitches in here to kind of keep this.
Yeah, that I probably wouldn't have done that, and I'm glad that you suggested that, because we would have had to. And actually, once you put the piping in, you really can't fix it.
No. Okay. And then we can press it afterwards. Here you go.
Okay, that looks good from what I can see.
Yep. Success. Basting stitch.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, that was just lint.
Basting stitches.
Basting lint.
That was our little turn. That's
Yeah.
the main thing I'm concerned with. Is that
It was a little tight, so we may have to look into that.
Yeah, let's fix that.
Yeah,
It's gotten
we'll
a little squished.
Yeah.
And that we need to have to look really good.
But the rest of it looks fine.
The rest of it's really good.
Yeah. And then we can look at the other one before, and then we can make adjustments to
All right,
that.
so let's fix that, and then we'll move on to the next. So, you do have to fix things as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and it shouldn't be too give an issue. We just probably have to clip a little bit. We may have just nipped it a little bit
Yeah.
too much.
Well, if that was my nip, my nip was probably too close. So we'll find out. We'll find out. Okay, we'll be back. So the sleeves have turned out really nice. I'm pleased. Are you pleased?
I'm very happy with the way they've come out.
Good. So tell our students what's the procedure here?
So
Because it's kind of hard to show it.
Yeah,
So we just went ahead and
so you can kind of see I'm tacking down the sleeve and stitching in the ditch here to it so that it'll close, and then you have this nice pagoda.
pretty shape. And then we closed up the top of the arm so that now is really a nice solid piece for when we go to insert the arms.
Yeah, you could either baste it or you can overcast like I did here.
Well, it's great because I basted, you overcast. It's not going to matter because
No, it doesn't.
by the time we're done with it, it'll be. But it really is looking good, and we have one to show you on our model. So it's got the lovely drape, and then the next thing is we have to get the jacket lined, and we're all prepared for that. We've got the first bit of piping basted on, and so it's basted right on the edge, and then we'll
go ahead and add the lining.
we'll add the lining, and then we flip it, and then we're going to put the sleeves in. So we've come a long ways, and so it's all ready. So we'll be back and we'll do that next. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Well, we're on day 4, so this is not this is not an easy costume. So, what are we going to do today?
We are going to sew the lining to the front piece. So when we're going to sew, we basted it all around, and we're going to...
And we did it at an eighth of an inch or no, quarter of an inch.
It's a quarter of an inch.
So this is a quarter of an inch.
And so because it's being basted, and I secured it a little bit more on the corner so it makes it a little easier, because once it starts pulling, you'll see it's tight enough so that you'll see what it's like, because you could take out these basting stitches afterwards.
So it's really important that we get the corners to look the way we want.
Right.
And I think that they're basted all pretty nice right now.
They are, yeah, it's very secure.
So we just have to hope the next stage works. So then we're going to baste the lining onto this, and then we're going to leave an opening at the back of the hem so that we can turn it.
Yeah, it's right around here.
Yeah.
We'll leave it.
And and you don't have to, with this one, you don't have to overcast the lining sleeves. It's not really necessary. You can if you want, if you're an overachiever, but you don't have to. So we'll get this. We're going to get this basted, and then we'll come back and show you the next step. So we're back. We're all pinned up, ready to go. So are you ready for this?
I am ready to start.
Do you have any words of wisdom on this?
Yes, I do. Make sure that you are lined up, because you will find that if you do not straighten it and attach it, lining up your seams from the front to the back, you may find it short. So, and you don't want to, as you're basting it, you don't
want to be short.
You don't want to be short.
No.
Because we're going to leave a gap here.
For turning.
Turn it inside out. Okay.
Okay, so are we gonna sew?
We are going to sew.
And Angela did some research that Rosie is I should know this, but She's a
99K.
she's a 99K.
So she's a little smaller than the 66K.
And bigger than the featherweight.
Yes. So the 66K is the full size, and then 99, and then a featherweight.
And you know, these all, we have, I think, 3 of these, and they all have their cases, but they also fit into our tables upstairs, which at some point we'll do a show up there. So now we're gonna go in and I'm gonna just pull this down a little bit so I can see. So we're gonna go right, using our zipper foot, and we're gonna just sew this up. I think this, you should just kind of take your time, don't you?
Yeah. I may have to readjust the tension on this just a wee bit. Or just tug a little more as it's going over the cords.
Yeah, because it's now going through a lot of,
Yeah, see.
it's going through a lot of stuff.
Yep. My tension. Yeah, so be careful on your tension. I think I'm going to loosen it up a little bit. It's too many layers for her.
Well, she does need to go to the spa, but we'll power through on this. So we'll get this sewn up, and then we will come back and show you the next step. So we're back. Angela's done all the sewing of the jacket to the lining, and she did a lot of the cleanup of removing the basting. So now it's the moment of truth. Are you nervous?
Yes.
So now we have to turn it inside out and hope. So there's your little opening.
Yeah. Let's cross our fingers.
Let's cross our fingers.
Always
I think
nerve-wracking.
it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work. It was prepped perfectly, so it should work. And if you hear some noises in the background, the bulldogs just came back from the enchanted forest. So they're all worked out. It's just like a balloon coming out of of the chute.
Yes. It looks like it came out fine.
It's looking good.
See?
That's looking nice.
And then we can press it. So
And
here's
that's a nice gap connection there. You did a really good job with that. Let's see your corners.
Oh, that came fine.
That came really nice. But the moment of truth is the collar. And I think that's good. Can you flip it the other way so we can see the back of the collar? Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, we've got a couple of basting things we can remove.
Yeah, we just need to.
We just clean that up. But I think that's really good, Angela.
And then pressing it down needs to be pressed.
Oh, the whole thing needs to be pressed. But
Yeah.
we got no tragedies yet. Yet.
We have one more corner.
Let's see, did you?
That's basting stitch I need to pull out.
Oh my
Another
goodness! It's all turned out good.
fine.
So I guess we'll clean up the stitches.
Yeah.
And then we're going to press it, and then we have to fit it onto the doll, and then we get to the final step of the jacket. Can you believe it? All right, we'll be back. So we're back. We've gotten the jacket is turned inside out. It's looking great. Now what's left to do is in this step, Angela?
So we're gonna close up the hole that we needed, and it's tacked on already, sewn on this side, so now we have to sew on this side. So I'm gonna do a hem stitch to attach it. So you're just gonna go in from the start of the hole, or start from where you had already sewn, into the piping, then diagonal, take a really small flea bite into that black fabric and pull.
And you're catching the kind of going into the ditch where the ditch would be between the piping and the.
Yeah, sewing again right in that ditch, and then into that edge of that black fabric and pull so you can see. And then you'll just keep going until you close it, and you won't even notice that this
You'll have to work pretty hard to
yeah.
find the opening.
Don't go all the way through, because then it will show.
And that's why you've got your finger on the other side, because you'll know.
You feel it poking
You'll
through.
feel it. Mm-hmm. And you're using what size needle for this?
I'm using a 10.
10. So it's fairly little. Little one. I like 10s. All right. Well, we'll let you finish this up, and then we will be back. And then we get to we're on the final lap. So it's all sewn up. The next step is
Ironing it, pressing
pressing it. So let's just do it. And using that nice little iron, it's a perfect little scale for what we're doing. The thing about this particular fashion, because the piping, we really don't do much pressing as we go, because the piping pops out all the seams. And normally that's the reason for pressing out, is so that the seams look nice.
I like
And you're
this.
keeping that at a fairly low temperature, the
Oh,
iron.
it's high.
It's high? Okay.
It's high, but you know, it works really well. And it's small, so it's
You can get between those
Yeah.
segmented pieces.
if you need to get into a small piece, you could use a chopstick or a glove, a heat-resistant glove, so you don't burn yourself.
Oh, come on.
We've all burned
Little-
ourselves
A
before.
little. My fingers work just fine for that. Sometimes I feel like my fingers are about the same condition as a bricklayer's, because you know you're doing a lot of hand sewing. You gotta get toughened up.
You get calluses, yeah. That's why I switched with thimble, just to kind of give my
Yeah, your
fingers a rest.
yeah, because if you need your fingers for other things. This is looking really good. If you hear some snorting and whatnot, that's just Louis.
He's getting comfortable.
Yes. He's making sure that this needlepoint carpet that we're sitting on is going to have to go to be cleaned. But Lou is a senior, so I'll show him Lou. Are you feeling better, Lou? Are you feeling better? Does that make you feel better? He just had his second lunch, so he's gonna be soothed.
And some dessert.
And
he
some
had
dessert, yeah.
dessert.
He's 10, he can have whatever he wants. Oh, now he's over here pushing me. Hey, I'm working.
If you want, you can go and flip it. But I think we're done.
I think that's looking really good. Now, shall we do the moment of truth? Let's do the moment of truth.
We'll take this off right now.
We know our sleeves are gonna work. Now we've got to see if this 2 days worth of labor, if it's gonna fit. That's looking pretty darn good.
I think I'll cry if it doesn't fit. No.
You have every right to if it doesn't fit, but you can blame. You can blame the pattern maker. I'm right here. Lou, I'm working. I know you don't believe that people have to do that, but we do.
Is it gonna close in front?
Well, you're just gonna have to wait and see with everybody else.
Nice.
We can iron it a little bit more, but it gives us a chance to look.
So is it working?
I think it's working.
I think you've got a little slack in the back that you can pull forward.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's totally fitting. I think you got it.
Yeah. Or just
And what's going on with this curling
I
here?
don't know.
Oh, we just probably need to, oh, it just needs to be pressed out.
Yeah.
Misted. I think you got a fit.
I think so.
All right, so we'll be back and we're gonna start working on the next stage. All right, so the jacket's looking really good. We are at the final stage of setting in the sleeves.
Yeah.
And
So you want to find a point here between these two piping lines so that will be the shape of your armhole. So you can just fold all of that in, and once you get it all into place, you can baste it or you can start sewing. Or you could do a quick baste in the black and then go over it again so what I would do is I would start from here and stitch in the ditch.
okay, so you're already attaching
Yeah.
the sleeve.
If you're too afraid, I would go ahead and I would probably do a very, very light baste around. But me, you're gonna
just
have to
gonna-
stitch in the ditch.
Right.
There's no way around that. So you may want to switch to a bigger needle. I'm using the little one for right now.
And what's important is that the lines in the sleeve line up, match each other. You don't want to have one higher and one lower. But there is a right side and a left side.
Yes, so you have to make sure. So you can see here, you want the long bit of piping to face towards the
chest.
opening here.
And then there's a top to the sleeve and a bottom to the sleeve.
So I had it pinned. Go in there. I'm gonna do a back stitch. I could take this pin out.
And then once you get the sleeve set in, you'll do a overcast to it.
And I might do another, just to make sure it's secure, do another pass very carefully, and then another back stitch, because you want it to be secure.
Well, we'll get this sewn up, and then we'll be back to show you the end results. So we are back, and Angela's gotten, you must be pretty tired because you've gotten the sleeves in, you've finished the inners. Let's show them the sleeves first.
Okay.
So the sleeves turned out really nice. Let me get the camera to adjust. They turned out really beautiful. So we have to be happy with that.
Yes.
Looks really good. And then I think that the inner armhole, let's show them that. That's a lovely finish.
So on here, what I would do is maybe overcast the white part with here, and then you can fold over
The lining.
the lining from
And
here,
finish it.
and then just do a quick little finish stitch, and then here you could just kind of tie it up as you close it up.
And that's really nice because it makes it easier to get in. And we did put the hooks in. It's the same technique as the skirt, so we didn't show you that because it's kind of repetitious.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Just
And it's just 3 hooks.
quick little.
So the question is now.
Now is it gonna?
Now is it gonna fit after all that? So is it gonna fit?
After all our re-ironing and finessing from last time.
It's looking good.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit now, oh, that looks great. Oh, that looks really nice. We just gotta turn her arm this way. It's kind of, she's gotten in a natural position. That's really great. So I mean, I think that, are you happy with that?
I'm very happy with the way it turned out.
Yeah, this was a big project, and I think you did a great job, and I learned so much. Angela does live in the real world, and she has to go back to her real job. So we will teach in-house the hat part of this series, and then we will teach the false sleeves. So you should feel really relieved. Well, Angela, it was great having you here, and we really, really appreciated it. And I learned lots and lots of new little tricks from you. And
New gadgets.
and she's the queen of new gadgets. So I've got to have me some of that. Well, listen, thank you so much, and I know we will see you again real soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.